Guys are ready. We're hitting the button. Hello, good morning, everyone out there. This is the San Carlos Computer Club meeting again, like we do every Tuesday. What's that?
You probably have the wrong email. It's misspelling or something. I never got the email again.
Okay.
You got the right email, but you're probably not putting in the right spelling or something.
Well, you know what's not happening is it's not being returned to me. This is the first time I've decided to use this for a mic holder.
Saying, where are you? Where's the meeting?
But it is Scrubs82 that's in there.
At Gmail.
At Gmail.
But one time the computer turned Gmail to IAL, and I didn't notice it for a while. So sometimes that happens. I'm not getting it, and I get all my emails. So.
Well, I'll try sending you a test later, Irving, and see if that comes up like I did with Christine. But I do see that your email is in our contact group, and so it should be going out. Do you check your spam when you have questions like this? Because maybe it's gotten.
That's probably what
maybe it's gotten filtered into your scan.
Here's a technical question, computer question. Yeah. So how do you get someone out of the spam list?
Well, when you are looking at it in your email client, and in this case it's Gmail, there should be a banner at the top of the message indicating that this looks like junk mail, and it should give you an option to mark it as not junk mail. And then from that point on, its algorithm should use that information to determine whether that's a junk mail message.
And then also make sure he's in your contacts.
Here's junk mail.
And this is the San Carlos Computer Club. I didn't finish the intro. I'm Scott Stimson from International Computers.
You're here.
You can always find us online. We meet a virtual meeting and an in-person meeting, which is actually going to continue on because I have had a change in dates. And so we are going to do a meeting
I don't want to touch it because
next week in person. A meeting after that on the 7th in person, and I may have to cancel the 14th meeting because I've got a feeling I am going to be driving up to Phoenix on that Tuesday. We've had a shift in our plans, and so I may not be here on the 14th, but I also may not be in a position to have a meeting because I could be on the road to Nogales. I should write that into our meeting notes. Let me drop this into our meet so that people have access to it.
I think I see something.
I see Chester's here with us. Good morning, Chester.
Yeah.
Buenos dias.
Bill and Cheryl were with us for a moment, but they're gone. I suspect they're having problems maintaining a connection driving around Canada. Gracias, señor. And Jonathan's with us, bringing us coffee.
Hello, everybody. I don't know if they can hear me.
Buenos dias.
Buenos dias.
Hola.
Everybody can hear you, and now people should be able to see you, Jonathan. Look at that camera over there. There we go. Thank you, sir. So as usual, I have sent out a document that has some news articles and topics that I found interesting that I thought you guys might find interesting. And if you got a chance to read it or look at it, those are topics that we can discuss today. But as usual, I'm much more interested in anything you guys have got going on. So I see Judy just put her hands up. Do you have a question?
No, I see the back of your head, Scott.
You're so fortunate. Is that better?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Let me see. How's that? You can see the front of me and the back of my head. And you can start scanning me for 3D objects. You can use your printer and you can just make a full life-size Scott.
Actually, it's back to just seeing the back of your head again.
Oh, you can't see me in the corner of that?
Maybe if I made you larger, but I don't.
That sounds like a porn movie.
Judy, you got to make me larger or you're not going to enjoy it.
This is definitely a porn movie.
Okay, well, I think we're going to just swap between these two views here. And occasionally we'll look at the whole table. There is 5 of us in person, and it looks like 2 of us online right now.
I want to hear about the drones for waiters.
Efficient.
Let's. Oh, well, you know what? Have you guys seen this? Let me see if I can not kill my computer and bring this up. Bill, who I thought would be joining us, passed me a couple of the app formerly known as Twitter, videos that were very intriguing. And if I do this right, you can look up at the TV behind you and see this video. Let's see this work.
I hope that waiter's better than me because I'd spill everything.
Come on, come on. Load it up. It might work. It's taking its own sweet time.
What's that for?
There's all of us waiting. Come on. Well, what it's supposed to be doing is it's supposed to be loading up this video. And if you don't get a chance to watch it right here with me, you can click on it from the document and bring it up. But it's basically showing how they've put together some software and some drones with special pedestals to serve food. And it's cute. I mean, it actually works in the video. I can't imagine it works, but it works in the video. When you watch them drop a beer on the serving and you watch the drone slow down, like take that weight and then compensate. Excellent. That's what the software is supposed to do. But when you watch that gravity, you realize this is the United States. Nobody's going to let that beer get to its person. It's going to be interfered with. It's going to be a bar game to interfere with it. And so I have a lot of trouble believing that that's the next step in drone technology. Maybe the 5th iteration.
Also, if it's autonomous, it's got to go around people, crowded place.
And I could impress you with this video if it would play, but it doesn't want to play for us today. I don't know why. Might try
I
again.
thought of a great food delivery service for Hooters.
Okay.
It's called Knockers.
Knockers. How does it work? Or is this food delivery? I'm sorry, my mind is
What
in
happens
food
when
delivery
you're
to the
married?
table.
This is
I'm like,
what
how
happens when you're married,
Yeah, right.
right? He just
Oh man, I wish this video would play. But you know how drones look when they're flying around the wedding taking pictures, and it's exactly the same experience, except there's a beer on top of it, or there's a bag, there's a basket of chicken on top. We
Chips or whatever.
yeah,
So
we
are
follow
you-
the basket.
So are
going-
you inferring that people would not respect someone's beer being delivered to them?
Wow,
and
I don't
they
even
would-
think
and
they
they
would
would
respect
gra-
the
they would
robot
grab it?
regardless of what they were delivering.
Okay.
Like, think about the robot that they tried to have hitchhike across the world.
Oh, I hadn't
Hey,
heard that.
Oh, it went all over the place. It was on the side of the road. People would pick it up, they'd take it on, there'd be a story on it, and they would record and Instagram that they ran into the robot. And so it went through a number of different countries, got put on a plane, got over to North America, went through Canada, got into the United States, lasted 2 days before it was found dead on the side of the road because somebody beat the hell out of it just for fun.
I was more worried that the drone would run into a pole or somebody
No,
Well,
and
that
it would
I
spill the beer.
no.
I think that
I
is-
Ron White had it right.
Yeah.
You just can't fix stupid.
That's true.
I do not believe that in that practical form, it's anything more than entertainment to watch. Look what we could do is more what we're looking at. And it is interesting. They showed somebody that works a food truck, put the order on a drone. He went past his food truck around the corner to a covered area where there were tables and landed with the customer to give him the food. It's a fun video, but I don't think there's anything realistic about
So
it.
it works on like a GPS.
I couldn't tell you. All it is an example of using drone technology for food delivery. And I don't
And the
think waiters
tables-
have to worry
The
about their
tables are
jobs at this
Yeah.
point if
I
you
think
see
it's
it.
novelty.
Yeah.
So what if you used a drone for an AV?
What do you mean?
Audiovisual.
No, for a autonomous vehicle, i.e., a big rig backing into a dock.
Oh, well, I don't know about that,
They
but you've
already
seen
have-
these guys flying around with in drones, right? In drone construction with the quad and octocopters. They've got all these propellers around them, and they're just
so
flying
what
by
if you
wire.
have an autonomous vehicle, okay, big rig, tractor trailer?
Mm-hmm.
As part of the question has been, okay, so how do we get the vehicle, once we get it off the interstate, then we have safety related issues. Okay. One of the biggest, most common accidents in the trucking industry is a backing accident.
Just backing up.
Backing up into a dock, into a truck parking spot. Okay.
So,
So what if you could deploy a drone for the driver that's in the truck, and in backing up, the drone and the autonomous vehicle?
You don't need that because they already have the software to self-park and.
Not for big rigs.
Yeah, you're talking. He's talking about
Well, I know what
backing
you're saying. I know
a
what
semi
you're
in
saying. I know what you're
to
saying.
docking.
Also,
But you
in
know what
terms of a
you're-
boat,
You know what you're reminding me of, though? I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, Irving. But we did look at a robot that was being used to park cars, and it was a tonnage robot. It was heavy duty, would slide under cars, pick them up, and navigate them to a parking spot that they could not have gotten into if it wasn't for the robot. And I imagine what you're talking about is an extension of that kind of technology.
Level 5.
Yeah, maybe that's the case. Maybe your truck pulls into a docking area and immediately disconnects, and some autonomous drone that's been programmed with the layout of that dock knows exactly how to move that truck into the docking position. It doesn't even have to be smart enough to understand it everywhere. It just has to know your dock, right?
and as far as a boat getting to a dock, they have that already. Yamaha, and I imagine others might have it. They use a joystick operation connected to. You have your mark where your dock is, and the motors will adjust the boat without you touching it. You know how that works. You have to sometimes put more power on one another. And it's also designed that you don't have to use an anchor. You can find a spot that you want to be on, mark the spot, and the engine will keep you right on that spot.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, like if you
that-
just want to be there temporarily
Yeah,
but
it's
not
about-
move.
It's about 15 grand. That's what it costs right now. You know, even an older engine is supposed to be able to retrofit.
Well, wow,
the
I think
first
you
part
guys.
wouldn't work with our sailboat.
I was blown away when we saw the parking lot robot. I mean, the park or yeah, they were talking about vertical parking areas and tight spaces. I thought that was amazing that they were working on that kind of. But you open up a whole nother market for these drones because, yeah, nobody likes having to back up a fifth wheeler or a semi truck or dealing with moving a boat in. I mean, like you could argue people should have those skills, and on the other side of it, you could argue there are people that don't have those skills, and we're better off if we have a solution for that.
Yeah.
All those RV people
They
out there.
shouldn't, yeah.
But it would be kind of cool if you could unhook from your fifth wheeler and then tell it to park itself, right? You drug it all the way there, but I want it in the perfect 8-foot by 24-foot space. So this is where you're going to park it.
Find it pulling.
Well, speaking of parking, there's another video that Bill sent me that I had not seen. Bill sends me all kinds of stuff, and sometimes I get it into the club, and sometimes I forget to look at it. In this case, these last two things I had forgotten to look at. I wonder if this video will come up. I think X hates me right now. But what it really is it is parking for bicycles in a storage silo. And I think we've seen stuff like this for cars, like parking lots in New York City. It's terraced. It's like 10 stories or something. And if you look at the video, you'll just see hundreds of bikes in this silo. And what it is this almost like a bank teller machine or a kiosk that you roll your bike up to, and it fits into a track. And you use your access, doors open, it grabs your bike and swifts off. takes it down, and finds a parking spot for it. That way it's secure. No one can steal it. It's right there in the middle of the city.
So they carve on a vending machine for bicycles.
That's probably it. Pretty cool stuff. And another X video that doesn't want to come up right now. I'm going to blame X because we have a lot of internet. It's fiber optic
If you
here.
don't have X, it won't come up, right? 'Cause I
You
don't-
should be able to look at it without X.
Okay, 'cause
Yeah.
I don't have-
Of course, then again, who knows? There's a maniac in charge of X.
So here's a
But I
question.
don't have X.
Yeah.
For still
Yeah,
today,
true.
when they talk about the site, they say what preceded X?
Twitter.
Twitter. They don't say X. They say X, formerly known as Twitter.
I know,
Why
by
do
now
they-
we know it's X.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
why do they keep on doing that? I mean, that doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, well, in my personal opinion, it's because we keep forgetting to say X.
Okay.
And it's the change was so abrupt that there's an audience of people out there that don't actually know what we're talking about when you say X. They know from Twitter, they know from campaigns, presidential races, that Twitter isn't used by normal people. It's just like normal people go and check their Facebook. Normal people don't go and check their Twitter. Twitter seems to be tech people, journalists. I don't mean to offend normal people. I'm sorry. I'm on X. I was on Twitter when it was Twitter, and I'm still on X because I haven't canceled my account. But it's
Are you paying for it?
no, I would never pay for it. If they shut the whole thing, if they firewalled the whole thing with a paywall, I'd be like, no, I'm done with that.
Better off, probably.
But I do look at it as one more, like I'm not a Fox News fan, but I'll flip to the channel every once in a while because I like to get my information, a broad spectrum of information, and see what other people are saying. And so I go to Twitter, and I go to Google News, and I go to Facebook and Instagram and all of these for information.
Your favorite one is the party one, right?
The party line? Which one's that?
Excuse me. I just got to clear this. Excuse me.
One thing I didn't know is that you can make a voice call on Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a friend called me the other day and it's ringing, it's weird ringing. What is that?
Well, and the quality of the program Messenger is much higher in your phone as a standalone app than it is in your laptop using Messenger client there. And so a lot of people use Messenger as well as WhatsApp to do their phone calls, video calls. as well.
International standard. What's that?
WhatsApp. International except for the United States, excluding the United States.
That's why we live on the fun side of the wall.
I've had an interesting WhatsApp experience recently where I have set up if you guys don't know this, you can, if you've got two phone services in your phone, like two SIM cards, you can have two WhatsApp. But you have to download two separate versions of WhatsApp, and one of them is called WhatsApp for Business.
It's hard enough remembering what to look at each day.
Gracias. So I set up a WhatsApp for Business for our bed and breakfast in Alaska. And there's very little contact because I've been using it for years. I've been using it for a month and a half. And now I'm starting to get spam messages. And I'm like, that's frustrating. It's like I haven't advertised it anywhere. I mean, outside of a WhatsApp. It's not like I put a WhatsApp number on, but it's like people have collected my number from business numbers from these lists that are out there. So there's some data broker out there that's collected our business number, and it's being challenged against WhatsApp account possibly existing, and finding the existence and putting it in a list of numbers that can be solicited to through WhatsApp. It's infuriating.
I would recommend the buyer doesn't waste his money in the survey because it's already
Let's tune in with Irving.
Yeah, the snow looks great.
do it however you do it, as long as the buyer understands what we're doing. Okay, thank you.
Put it on speaker.
No, we won't have litigation. It's not a big deal to me if I had. Yeah, I understand.
Irving, just a reminder, you're on camera and microphone.
I think the police are coming.
It's not encrypted.
We're not hiding any of our
I
activities
surrender,
during this hour.
You should have started speaking Yiddish.
If I could.
So, where are we at? Does anybody have any other tech questions or issues that we should address? Where is our group? How come I can't see them here? There they
What
are.
are some of the subjects?
Chester, Judy, you guys got anything out there? Are you still with us?
I don't have anything.
Nothing to bring up. Okay.
No, sorry.
Well, I brought some articles with me I thought were interesting. You guys noticed that FISA got passed again?
Explain FISA.
So FISA is the ability for the U.S. government to seize information that has been collected without a warrant, as long as one of the parties in the communication is a foreign party. And the problem is that it's being abused right now. All they have to do is make a foreign connection with somebody that they want to investigate, and that's enough for them to get a wireless, a warrantless wiretap on their to collect their data. Essentially, it's that stuff that Snowden used to talk about. Put in somebody's phone number, put in somebody's email address, put in somebody's name, and see all the communications that have ever happened. That stuff is still going on. It's always going on. It's all collected. It's all warehoused. Your information, Irving's, all our information across all the communications lines are all being warehoused. They could be warehoused encrypted. In fact, a lot of service providers have changed to that. And so the government has said, if you encrypt it, then we're going to keep it in perpetuity, because it's a great challenge for us to teach our people on how to break encryption. They do have a law that your information will disappear in 6 months if it's non-encrypted. However, they still have the rights to get into your Gmail account, your Hotmail account, your Yahoo account, any of these cloud service accounts, because the way the law is shaped right now, if you keep email out there, you're not keeping it private. You're keeping it in publicly available repositories. So if you're doing shady stuff, don't do it on Google, because they hand that stuff over to the government all the time. And that's outside of FISA. Yeah, Chester.
FISA was abused by the FBI 128,000 times.
Yeah, no, I think it's a bipartisan issue of I don't believe in FISA simply because of the way it has been abused. I can't even entertain the way that it was supposed to work. I understand the concern, but personally, I have trouble supporting it at all, just because every opportunity the government has had to abuse it, it's like tax loopholes, right? It's like you've got these guys that are there looking for every way to get at somebody.
It's probably impossible to get it right, and I like it. Of course, Pete dislikes it. Of course, he's in my position. I like it. In this dangerous world, you gotta have everybody under scrutiny. I mean, every 2 weeks in America, there's a mass shooting of strangers. It's beyond my brain to figure out any motive. So, and then of course with the terrorism and the hate and all that's going on in the world, basically, got to monitor everybody. If they got nothing to hide, there's nothing to worry about.
You're right. And so that's why they waited till Friday night at midnight, when no one was paying attention, to pass this law.
You were paying attention.
No, I found out about on the weekend. I'm like, oh my God, that happened on Friday. It's good for another 2 years. They put a time limit on it. FISA was passed after 9/11, and they put a time limit on it because the politicians at the time recognized this is a temporary state of concern, and they want it to expire to reflect the values of America. And what they've done is they've perpetuated it into the future. And what they did on Friday is they expanded its powers. So now there's a very loose definition of what a service provider is. And I heard some tech journalists over the weekend talking about now a service provider can be a landlord that has phone lines in his basement. He is now can be approached and asked to have access to those phone lines without any kind of warrant or justification, because a court has said it. Dropbox could be considered a service provider. So they could go to Dropbox and ask to look inside without any warrant. Just they're looking for information. It's a precedent that I don't like setting, Irving. I think that
Well, again, what do we do about the terrible, terrible state of the world?
well, at the same time, I don't think you have a problem with encryption. And you like the idea of when you pick up the phone and you talk to somebody, nobody else.
I basically I want the powers that be to protect the individual, and it's difficult in these times.
Yeah.
And that's how these things come about. There are a lot of people that really respect their privacy or are crazy. I know people that any intrusion is no good to them, but I don't know why.
When they came for my Fourth Amendment, I didn't say anything because it really didn't affect me. When they came for my Second Amendment,
Gotta decide what
I
goes
really don't
on.
have a gun. When they came for my First Amendment,
It didn't matter what you said.
and that comes from a Jewish character in Law and Order who was a defense attorney.
Okay, let's give Chester. Chester's had his hand up for a bit. Let's hear his take on this.
These
Go ahead,
Jewish people
Chester.
must be very smart.
My understanding is.
Say again, Chester. I'm sorry.
The renewal was for 2 years so that a Republican president and Congress could deal with it as they see fit.
Well, yeah, but Chester, it's been 2 years, 10 times. 10 times
It's been
they have
more.
renewed
No, it's
this.
always been, I think, 4 or 6 years, but they limited it to 2 years this time solely because they expect a change in leadership.
Oh, I didn't catch that. Thank you. I didn't catch that in what I was reading.
Thank you.
I thought that they had been making it 2 years
And,
since the
John-
beginning.
No.
Well, what do you think of the expansion of powers that they've taken? Because
I don't agree with any of it.
it really caught me off guard. And then what surprised me was how hard it was to find the information. In fact, I used it as a challenge with a Google AI prompt, and I provided you with a new one just so you can play with it. Explain the latest FISA Act renewed with its new expanded capabilities in layman terms. Provide examples of potential abuses of those expanded capabilities and how long it will be enacted this time. So you give that to Google, and at first I got very canned, generic, liberal answers that that didn't go into anything and was confused about the idea that it would be expanded. I stuck it into Chat GPT through Copilot on Edge, and it gave me exactly what I wanted. It gave me a write down. I mean, like, how often do you say Edge just be Chrome, or Microsoft just be Google on something as far as search and information? But it gave me a whole breakdown of everything that was going on, as well as references I could click on to see the abuses that could possibly happen. It could happen because of the expanded powers. And granted, it didn't go into great detail. What it did was it gave me the links where people had used examples of the kinds of abuses that could happen.
So are you finding that, now you said that you used ChatGPT
Through Copilot
through Copilot.
on Microsoft Edge, because one of their power plays right now is to provide that for free.
Correct.
Okay.
Whereas you pay $20 a month for ChatGPT.
Did you find the collective consciousness more more informational through just going through ChatGPT webpage or through Pilot?
Okay, so first, I went through ChatGPT, which is available through the Edge browser.
Correct.
So that's all the same thing. Then I compared it to Gemini,
Okay.
which is the Google,
Google.
version of this stuff. It's not ChatGPT.
Did you compare it with ChatGPT standalone?
No, no. And
Try doing that. You'll be amazed. The amount that it's a different perspective. What I've discovered is there's a different perspective.
well, I've got a
ChatGPT.
cherry on
Yeah,
top
go
of this
ahead.
Sunday,
Okay.
because I went back to Gemini and kept messing around with the prompt, trying to get the robust information I had gotten out of a Bing search using ChatGPT. And what it finally did was say, I have not learned enough to answer this question. And I'm like, oh, I broke it. So I start up a brand new chat and I put in my original question to get my original result. And it comes back, I haven't learned enough to answer this question. It learned enough not to answer it for me. It said, this guy's trying to get stuff out of me that I'm not supposed to get.
I don't. Yeah. And that's why I'm saying the perspectives of the collective consciousness from each of the AI
Mhm.
engines are only as good as what the leadership within the collective consciousness allow to occur.
Well, it brings up an interesting thought. I had thought that when you put in the search, it's searching everything. But evidently, these different sites are proprietary. If they don't come up with the
I think they're covering their butt. I think Google is covering their butt. I think that they have dialed the cover your butt button in the AI because it saw these points of interest that I had, and it was scared to interpret what this new law is.
That's what I'm saying. It's
Right,
already out
and
there.
Google's hedging. They're staying on this side of getting in trouble. This thing is blown up in their face so many times in just the last few months.
When you look at the number of people that get their news from Google.
There's no doubt in my
Google's
mind
not
the
a news
right
agency.
information
They're not
is in there.
journalists.
But I think their leadership has said, we want to govern this stuff. We don't want it blown up. We don't want egg on our face. You remember the Founding Fathers fiasco. They ask them to generate Founding Father pictures, and there isn't one white guy. Right? And it's like, good, and that's fine. I mean, from a tech perspective, of course, they're concerned about diversity and inclusion, and so they just made that part of the algorithm. But it's it's an example of how you're not thinking about the algorithm correctly because it's not spitting out the right information. You got a Chinese George Washington. That never existed before.
But wait a minute. We had the cherry blossoms from China.
What I find amazing when I'm using these language models. Oh, we've got 15 minutes till we switch to the other meet. Is how very effective they can be, but mostly because I can recognize it. When I'm looking for information I don't know, then I don't know if it's effective or not. And when I'm looking for information I do know, I can see where this is a total hallucination, that this absolutely is not relevant or useful information. And it's stuck in there right around the useful stuff. And I can pick out the useful stuff because I know what I'm looking for. But when I'm looking for stuff I know nothing about, how can you trust it? You can't, because it regurgitates information in a statistically interpreted concept of what's going to be sent to you next. What would be the most accurate based on statistics to put the next word in front of you? And that's just a spell checker.
But Scott, that's the whole point of totally relying on this new GPT stuff. It's not reliable. Therefore, I don't see the use in it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of use in it. For me, I think of it as like an encyclopedia that can talk to me.
But it's an encyclopedia that doesn't give you the right answers.
Well, and sometimes it doesn't.
Only if you know the right answers is it a good resource.
Or
Anyway.
if you want it to provide you with a specific answer.
Yeah, I think.
Right.
I think that one of the best examples I could make is tabling information. Like I could take an LLM, language learning model, and I could focus it on specifically a set of data. Maybe it's like a stack of spreadsheets. And after it's consumed all that information, I could ask it questions and I would expect reliable answers. I could ask it stuff like, what was John's production last week? I could ask it, how much did it cost us to work on the 35 and second job? And, you know, or how much did we make working on project XXX? And it would be able to consume that data and come up with quick answers for me. And I would expect it with very high accuracy.
Including statistical data.
Yeah, absolutely.
Statistical data is,
Yeah, absolutely. That kind of, and I think that the problem is that we're living in a world where everybody has to create new value for their company. And so they've taken the AI as a marketing idea and they've tossed it behind everything they do. Microsoft has put Copilot everywhere. It's not even the same AI. I kind of like the way they're going about it though, because Copilot is what they've done is they've said Copilot is like an interface. It's like a standardized interface. And their thinking is that if you pay for your own AI, as long as it's written to that connection of Copilot, Copilot can use that AI. So you've got Copilot in Windows, it's helping you do stuff. Maybe you subscribe to, I want to say Chat GPT, even though it's the same thing. I can't think of anything else to subscribe to. Okay, say you subscribe to Gemini. You can pay for Gemini. It's $20 a month as well. Say you subscribe to Google's AI, you think it's better. Then you can configure the Copilot interface to be connected to the Google AI.
create the APIs.
And so I think that's a really smart way of going about this. I think Microsoft is ahead of its time because all these other AI developers we're going to make a new version of a word processor. We're going to make a new version of a mapping program. And Microsoft is like, we're going to make an interface to everything that we've already got. And then we're going to make an interface to any AI you might want to use with anything we've already got.
Who did they learn that from? Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs.
What did he say? We're going to make a piece of equipment and allow the developers to provide the apps.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. It's a bit reductive for Steve Jobs. He would hate the idea that there are other marketplaces being put on his platform right now.
Understandable. But the original concept
With the
in regards to
iPhone,
the iPhone
yeah, the iPhone's original concept
was
no app store.
no app.
Yeah.
And we will allow developers, and we will provide the platform and the basis.
No, I always enjoyed that. I thought that was a very puristic way of looking at the technology. He said things like, the web is the platform, and we will be the best web browser that exists. We will follow all the web standards so that any web app you built would look beautiful on this phone. And then his Apple corporate is like, how are we going to make any money? And that's where the App Store came from. A bug. We have fireworks at the computer club. Well, if you don't use the prompts, this is the second time I've provided you with a prompt that I thought was fascinating. But if you go to any of these, Copilot is free if you use it in the Edge browser. The Edge browser is available for Macintosh, for iOS, as well as Android and Windows. So you don't have to think that you can't get it because you've got some different framework you're working on. I love this, taking a prompt, seeing what information comes out of one AI and moving it over to another AI and comparing and contrasting the results. In fact, I'm going to start doing stuff like copying and pasting from Gemini's answer into Copilot and have it evaluate Gemini's answer just to see how correlated this information can get when I'm looking for answers. So Gemini is free. I think all you have to do is try and use it at gemini.google.com. I think the first time you try and use it, it gives you an error message saying, oh, it's too busy. We'll let you know when you can use it. And then within a week or so, you should have access to it. You just go back to it and can use it. Or you get immediate access to it. And then, like I said, if you've got the Edge browser, there's a Copilot button right there that starts up ChatGPT-4, and you can just start talking to it. You know, the Edge browser, in this respect, I find it's a great offering. What they found out was there's a lot of people driving around in their car talking to ChatGPT. They're paying $20 a month to run an app on their phone that they can have full conversations with. It takes a vocal input and a vocal output, and to entertain themselves as they're sitting in traffic. They're having thoughts pop into their head, and they're just asking it of the app, and the app's answering the questions, and it's asking, and there's so this interaction, which seems so unusual, is happening. There's percentages of people doing this. If this is something you want to do, you can do it for free just using the Edge browser. I've done it myself. Just asking it questions. It has vocal responses. The Copilot will actually plug into other AIs. It'll generate photos for you. Gemini won't do that. Gemini doesn't make it'll make tables, but it won't make photos or drawings.
Speaking of that, in reference to graphics created by Copilot, have you noticed that they, number one, are very much in the Eastern European and Russian style?
No, I had not noticed that. Pardon me.
Was asking for some graphics to be provided, for them to create some graphics regarding driver recruiting and driver retention and predictive hiring and so forth. 8 graphics reminded me of posters that you would have seen in the Soviet Union
era stuff.
Yeah,
That's
with
interesting.
the type colors, the graphics, everything. It was like, this is Eastern European. This is Soviet Union.
I wonder if it's as simple as copyright stuff. I wonder if they're like right now there are lawsuits going on about copyrighted works, and what's on the table if big tech loses these, if Google loses these, if Apple loses these cases, or ChatGPT loses these cases, is literally going back to the drawing board, destroying the creations that they have created, which I don't believe they would do, but that's what legally they were supposed to do. They'd be inclined to do is destroy these models that they built and build them up again, but do them under the law that would be determined by these copyright cases, paying royalties to people for their information. What big tech argues is that they would never be the same. They would never come back up to where they're as effective they are now. I saw an art project the other day that I thought was a great metaphor for what this is that I'm talking about. If you're having trouble wrapping your head around breaking these models, because they don't need to use that information anymore. After the model has been built, it's set. And now you could pull out all the data that was copyrighted, and you've got this thing that's ready to work. It just needs to be handed data. A good metaphor for this art project I saw was this lady's making porcelain. She's crocheting porcelain bowls. And what she does is she uses yarn and she makes a doily. Beautiful. She covers a rounded shape, and she covers it. Well, actually, first she soaks it in this liquid clay, covers it in this, shapes it with some rounded shape, sticks it in a kiln. The kiln burns away the yarn and leaves a porcelain pattern. It leaves a porcelain bowl that looks like it's crocheted. I mean, you have to tap on it to see it's hard. And the process burns away the yarn. The yarn no longer exists. It's only porcelain that's left. And it's in the crochets, it's in the doily. It's beautiful. This would be like saying you used yarn, so that's illegal. Destroy that bowl. That's the metaphor for this. That bowl was created using yarn that was not approved, so you cannot have the bowl. That it sounds silly, but that's quite literally what we're talking about. Is they used other people's data without permission. They broke copyright law. It does not matter what you created with it. Your creation's abomination. It should not exist. You did it illegally. You must destroy it and start your creation legally. And that's what's being proposed. In some ways, morally, that would be right, because they have used, in very classic tech ways, they went for asking for forgiveness later. They knew that they were using copyrighted material. That Facebook considered buying the publisher and using Simon Schuster. This is really well-known information now. They considered buying the entire publishing company just so they could have access to every literary work and put it through their LLM. They decided not to, because it's cheaper just to do what ChatGPT was doing, which is basically taking everything and asking for forgiveness later. And that became the model for building these models, was asking for forgiveness later. So it's a moral ethical conundrum that's going on right now. As far as these AIs, it's become obvious what kind of value they can bring in certain areas. But is it worth allowing these companies to have behaved like this in the first place? And we don't know. I'm really curious how we end up on the other end. I was really surprised that Microsoft ended up being the hero in the ChatGPT firing. I did not think that the American public would get behind a multi-billion-dollar company when what's at stake is the ethics of putting together AI. And AI professionals, scholars, some of the most intelligent people in the industry are saying this isn't a safe way to do it, so much so we're going to fire this guy. And Microsoft sweeps and goes, you're not firing our guy. In fact, we're going to give him a job and take all your technology over there. And the United States population is like, yeah, that's awesome. It's a really interesting world we're in right now. Well, as you know, I can rant and talk forever. So if you guys don't have questions, I'll just move on to something else.
It's ending.
What's that, Chester?
It's
Oh, the
ending.
meeting's ending? Okay, I'll bring up the next one. You're right. It's ending right this moment. Jacob, we have a 1 hour limit on our Google Meet calls because we Chester's with us. Judy hasn't come in yet, or may not come back. She's got the propane thing she's doing. Chester, can you hear me okay?
See,
Awesome. What else did I bring today? Well, I just brought a couple of things that I saw in the news that I thought were kind of interesting. And new backlit light technology for monitors called QDEL. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the quantum dots that already exist. There's already a system creating true blues and true, outside of this article, I saw a YouTube video that was amazing. It talked about the history of the blue LED. And I didn't realize how very important that was for our technology. You would think just making a colored light wouldn't be all that important. They had come up with red and green back in the 50s, maybe even earlier than that. But it was in mass production in electronics by the end of the 50s. Green and red LEDs. And LEDs are significant because they're solid state devices. They don't use a filament like a light bulb does. They're actually a chemical layering, a chemical composition that when you throw electricity through it, it emits light. And the problem is getting it to emit the color that you want. And red was the very first one they were able to come up with. And it is a collection of specific elements. I won't even pretend to have remembered what the elements are, but it's a layering of elements in a specific order so that when these, I don't even know if they're photons, maybe they're ions, are generated, they hit particles, and the light that it emits is based on a frequency that is restrained by the chemicals. Gracias. So all that is a very complicated way of explaining it's not because they colored them. They may look red in your hand as you're picking them on unlit.
Jonathan?
The color of the LED in hand is literally just so you know what color it's supposed to be. It has nothing to do with the color that emits. And what I didn't realize was those are based on very specific elements that they did lots of experiments on, and they narrowed them down to red, and shortly after they were able to find some that would emit green. And that's what we had. We had that for 20 years. There was no other. And the thing that we know about color processing is if you could come up with blue, you've got the colors, red, green, and blue. If you could come up with a blue LED, you
What's
could
the highest of the light spectrum versus red being the lowest of the light spectrum.
well, you can mix all the
Exactly.
colors you need. That's how our
That's how you
most
get a color. You
You're
mix.
missing one
green
color.
is mixed.
no, it's red, green, and blue. Those are the colors. That's what our RGB monitors are.
Red, green, and blue. RGB.
Red, green, and blue.
I didn't know that's
They're
what it stood
red,
for.
magenta, blue, and black. I believe.
CMJK.
There's four
Yeah.
colors. Check it out.
MOUS.
Well, sure. But the point I'm making is with red, green, and blue, you
Yeah,
can
for the
mix a
LEDs,
spectrum
yeah.
of colors,
Yeah,
and
for
you
the
can start
LEDs.
playing with the idea
Yeah.
of using LEDs for display,
Yeah.
because you have this huge spectrum of color that you can work with.
Yeah.
So I didn't understand how important that discovery was.
Magenta, yellow,
Cyan.
red, and black. I believe.
Cyan, magenta.
Oh, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
CMYK. It's cyan, magenta,
Yeah.
yellow, and K. I don't know why K, but K is black.
Yeah.
Okay, but
So
you guys are talking about different technology.
We're talking about what makes up the color spectrum.
Sure.
Four colors can
But-
make all the rest of them.
But if you don't have blue, then you're using a CRT,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because
I got
you
it.
only got red and green to
In
work
that
with.
application. Got it.
Yeah. And I recommend looking for this. This documentary was really interesting because it talked about the guy that came up with it, did not have a college background, wasn't taken seriously. He was a chemist, a self-trained chemist. He and self-trained physicist, and he actually went back to Japan. He was in the United States trying to make his way, but no one would take him seriously. He went back to Japan. Apparently, at the time, I didn't know this. In Japan, all you have to do is publish 5 papers, 5 critically acclaimed papers, like from people in that field, and they'll give you a doctorate. And so he spent a lifetime getting those 5 papers.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
Critically acclaimed, one of my favorites.
very, very cool. It was a very cool
That is.
story.
That is.
And it ends a little sad because he never got the record. The company he worked for took what he designed, didn't pay him any kind of compensation for what he brought to the organization. He eventually left that organization, went to another organization that's making LEDs, brought his process with him, and then they tried to sue him for it. He countersued them for tens of millions of dollars and won. But then when everything was said and done, it was whittled down to like $9 million, which he saw none of, only paid for his legal fees. He'll go down in history kind of like Tesla has.
Uh-huh.
He did not get anything. He's gotten a lot of recognition all over here, but he never got any financial recognition from coming up, being the guy. He's the guy that came up with the blue LED. And it was like a 20-year, 30-year journey from when he started and when he finished. Well, all that being said, this QDEL is the latest thing that's being played with. It's using these quantum dots that you'll hear Samsung TVs.
Can you get it let's say in a notebook or something like that?
No, you can't get it at all right now.
Right.
In fact, I saw a video. Yeah, in fact, I don't think that we're going to see this being in practical applications for quite a while. But what's interesting about it is the quantum dots are already there. I mean, what they're proposing in this article is that by building them in this manner, they're self-illuminating. And you've seen this, like the Macintosh screens now use these things called mini LED, and they're a matrix of small LED cells.
Are they clear?
Well, what they do is they light themselves. Traditional LCD panels have a layer of LCD material that is matrix to be made up in different color points. Quality of light, the absence of light, that's a big thing that TV owners complain about, is you want true blacks. You want black like it's turned off, not like it's illuminated black. And that's what you end up with in traditional LCD technologies. You end up with illuminated black.
Which brings up a question I think has been addressed a long time ago, changing the subject. Is Samsung TVs, you can't get them loud. They're just the volume goes to a certain point and they won't go any higher. Do you know anything about that?
Well, I know that TV manufacturers look to cut corners everywhere. Their industry is selling your information now, so you can buy them dirt cheap. And most people just assume they're going to buy a sound system alongside them. So unless you go out looking for a TV in terms of the sound quality, you'll find the same problem with laptops too. Nobody is spending a lot of money making laptops sound really good, except for Apple, which is a perfect example of what happens when you spend $1,300 on a computer. It sounds pretty good. The TV industry is exactly the same way right now, Irving. So what is interesting about these QDELs, those mini LEDs, they're LCDs, they're cells of LCDs that illuminate themselves. And so you can turn on 1 pixel of light. And all these computers in front of you, the one you're using, you cannot do that. You have a backlight that's just illuminating the whole back of that LCD panel. And you've experienced, I'm sure you've seen it, where you've got brighters over here and darkers over here. You got kind of a ghosting of light that comes across. And this eliminates all of that. And so this article is talking about the process they've come up with for making Q dots. Oh, and Q dots, we didn't talk about that, but that's in Samsung TVs right now. They're selling that. I think they're selling it as QOLED or something like that. QOLED. Or QD or something like that. I don't remember what that's called at the moment. It's in this article somewhere. But what that's all about is using some kind of quantum precisioning for the way light, kind of like what we were talking about with the blue LED. Determines how bright a color is going to come off of the screen, and these Q dots help with that. That's my level of knowledge. But the fact that they already exist is now they're supercharging. They're taking that technology and they're figuring out how to illuminate those dots so they don't need to require a backlight. This is a really nerdy article. It has pages and pages of information. And if I thought a normal person was interested in anything off of this article, it would be the CES video. 2/3 of the way down the page is a YouTube video from a reviewer able to catch up with a company that's building these QDL. It's Sharp. I say company. It's Sharp that's building these displays, building this technology, and you can see you can see how completely new this technology is, because the demo he's looking at is like made in a cigar box. Like we finally found one to look at, and we're looking at it as just regular consumers going, oh, that's not going on my wall anytime soon. He's like holding wires together to keep it, I mean, metaphorically holding wires together to keep this demo going.
First presentation with Woz.
Right. Yeah. It's a wooden box, and
But it's really cool.
Yeah.
When you work with it, it's really cool.
Also, when you read the reporting on this, it is so obviously just popping out that they want support. I think they showed up at CES because Sharp wanted to generate the interest. It was a back room one of those. It wasn't there for us to see. It was for them to bring in people from Samsung and see, look what we're about to start doing. We want you to start investing in this. And that's the kind of demo that was being showed off. Is no, we got nothing. We got no panels to show you. We've got this demo to show you. We were ready to do this. If you read the reporting on it, apparently this isn't going to require any new manufacturing. Right? They're going to be able to retool everything that's being done for LCD right now. That's a big deal, because your alternative is OLED, OLED displays. I didn't know this until I was looking at this. Those need to be created in zero atmosphere. You guys ever heard that before?
No.
The OLED panels, it's got to be created in a vacuum. It's an organic material, and so it's created in a vacuum, and then you have this degradation part of, because it's not solid state, it will degrade quicker than an LCD panel will. And so it's more cumbersome to manufacture, and it's more vulnerable to time. That's the way I would look at it. Yeah, you can burn in. Well, the advantages of OLED are those dark blacks that I was talking about. They've got a lot of control over the color spectrum. There's this robust color spectrum that you get from OLED. But the compromise is that over time it degrades, and the material just degrades in it. And you have the potential for burn-in. So if that problem channel on that doesn't move for the thing that prompted screensavers back in the day with the CRTs. If you guys aren't aware, the only reason screensavers ever existed was to save the monitor.
And the monitors.
Yeah, it was entertaining, but it was really to keep that phosphorus from getting etched into the monitor. And that's essentially what's happening with these OLED. If you keep it on the home shopping network too long, you're going to turn it off, and you're going to still see the lower third there.
We're dating ourselves with technology, aren't we?
You got to know your audience.
CRTs. Wait a minute, is that deep?
Oh gosh, we replaced the projection TV this year. Yeah,
Wow.
My buddy Sid comes and stays with me a month a year, and so the area that he stays in, I've had this ancient Samsung projection TV for years.
First TV I ever saw was one. My uncle was rich and he had one.
Yeah.
First one I ever saw.
Are those the heavy ones?
These are the ones that are like a car.
Yeah.
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 And you got a
And-
light
Oh, yeah,
inside
yeah.
that
You got
reflects off, and
Yeah, it's like
Well, the early projections where the projectors were up in front.
oh right, yeah. No, I remember seeing those for the first time in what was that science magazine? Beyond. Yeah, I remember seeing it in
And
Beyond.
and you had the three.
Yeah, well, and it was all just concept because it didn't exist. They had a big living room, like widescreen, my like 80 inches.
Is that all?
Right, you can buy an 85-inch TV at Sam's Club now for under $1,000.
Sit back in the bedroom to watch it.
Right. Well, and now these panels, the LCD stuff is coming out in sheets. I was looking at a video the other day where they were wrapping LCDs around a cylinder, and
Well, they were supposed to do that, and it hasn't hit the market. That was a few years ago.
yeah,
Basically, had to do with the carbon. Something they had a breakthrough in carbon. These guys won the Nobel Prize, and one of the things they were supposed to be able to do is have a TV just roll up like a sheet of
Like
paper.
a roll.
Jacob, do you go to CES in Las Vegas? The computer or the electronics show?
Somewhere like.
No, I haven't.
I went there. I
I'd
used to go.
love to go
I
there.
lived there. I loved it. And you had to someone had to bring you in because
Yeah.
only commercial was allowed.
Right.
But my computer guy always got me a pass.
yeah. I think that's changed now.
Now
You
it's
can
okay.
just pay to have access now.
We paid to get in.
Yeah, yeah. But you're right. There was a time when you had to be in the industry to be part of that show. But that show turned into a promotional show to the people, and so they started allowing everybody to come
That
into
was
it.
fabulous.
What's that old saying?
Great interest.
3 ways to be successful. 3 ways to be successful in business. Either be first, be the smartest, or cheap.
What is it we say in
And
business?
I don't cheat, and I'm definitely not the smartest. So I
And
always
you're-
want to
and
be
you're
the
broke.
first. So I want to be the first.
Maybe not.
Right. I think it kind of parallels with that. It can be fast, right, or cheap. Pick two.
It's a cute little saying, but it's not applicable. The thing I've learned throughout life is this: many roads to Rome. What's the saying? All roads lead to Rome. There's so many ways to be successful.
All roads lead to the Midas.
To the Midas, to the gold.
Ocean's 13.
Oh, I'm not familiar with
All
that.
roads lead to the Midas. Had the one-way street leading away from the casino, now leading to the casino.
I saw
I'm
it,
not
but I don't
remembering that
remember
reference.
Yeah.
It was right before the Willie Banks stole
I probably have to rewatch
the
that movie.
property.
That's one of those movies I've only watched once.
I liked him better as an actor than I did as a singer, even though he was a heartthrob. That's Frank Sinatra's movie, ain't it?
The way it is,
No,
but
13.
actually, I think you're probably talking about
I'm talking about 13.
the
not Ocean's
sequel, the sequel
Not
to the
Ocean's
remake,
11. Oh, you
The
told
the
me.
remake and the sequel of the sequel.
the sequel of
Now
the
I'm showing
sequel.
my age.
That's right. That's right. Ocean's 11 is a remake. Ocean's 12 and 13 are sequels to the remake.
Yeah, okay.
And wait, is that the one with all the girls?
No, that's
Don't they
Ocean's
have
8.
all the girls?
Ocean's 8.
He's got his oceans down pat.
Yeah.
No, I am a huge movie buff.
So
Because
am I.
the best part, as you and I, is that some of the best lines to life and to business are in movies.
I agree. I
And
have
if-
my
and if-
favorite lines from a host of movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. We gotta commiserate.
I mean, remember, right? If God wanted them to be sheared, he would have made them sheep.
Okay.
Okay.
Magnificent Seven.
I got one last article that I'm not even going to get into, but I'm going to leave it for you if you're interested in listening to a former Microsoft employee ranting about how bad Windows 11 has gotten. He's ranting about the start menu. This is a guy that was intimately involved in lots of code in the Windows operating system. He has things he's proud of. The start menu is not his, and he is absolutely not proud of it. And I wanted to ask you before we get out of here, do you guys have any recommendations for stuff? Movies, shows, podcasts,
I want to
websites?
hear your greatest movies recommendation, TJ.
Greatest movies recommendations for myself personally. The greatest love movie,
Yeah.
Casablanca.
Great movie. I got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I put that up top. Very great.
The
movie.
greatest hero movie, Magnificent Seven.
Great movie. You got good
Okay.
movies.
The best everyman movie, Tin Cup.
That was good.
Oh, that's a fun movie. Yeah.
Okay.
Haven't even thought about that for a long time.
The best inspirational movie? Patton.
Well, we're divergent right there, I can tell you. But all right,
Has nothing to do with politics or anything else. It's a movie.
all right,
It's a story. Story of an incredible leader, George Patton.
all right.
I've brought two movies that are recent movies that have just come out that I thought were worth watching. There's one by Russell Crowe called Sleeping Dogs. Have you seen this yet? He plays an ex-police officer suffering Alzheimer's, and he is approached by somebody's representative who's on death row for a crime that he put him in jail
Don't
for.
tell us too much about it. I don't want to watch it.
Okay, Sleeping Dogs. It's really well done. You deal with his mental issues, not being able to remember anything, not being able to remember the crime, and having to revisit it all.
DJ, the best crime movie is L.A. Confidential.
Oh, that's
I
a great
agree.
movie.
Yeah.
And then the other one that I bring is an English film called Wicked Little Letters. And this is one of those subtle films you didn't know you were going to like. It's a story about a village where there is the unwed mother that is the talk of the town. She's the Jezebel, I guess, and she gets blamed for writing these profanic letters to another woman in town, and it's all the drama that shakes out in a small English village because of this. Getting the law involved and all that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so those are two good ones. My wife and I totally enjoyed both those movies.
And your favorite book?
Oh gosh, I've read so many I can't remember. Gentleman in Moscow is one that was great. That's more recent.
Gentleman in Moscow?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, let me see if that's an audio book.
Must be. And we're watching the. They made it into a series. I always find when I read a book and then I watch the movie or the series that I don't. The book is so much better.
Yeah, we put so much into that.
So my favorite book of almost of all time, which everybody can read, and I said it all over, is an Alaskan book. And I wonder if you've read it, Scott. It's called Black Sand and Gold.
No, I'm not even familiar with it.
Okay, when I first got to Alaska, my friend told me this is the best book I ever read. It's not. It may be the best book I ever read, but it's a fabulous and inspirational. That's an inspirational book. And it was basically about the 1995 Stampede for Gold and what they went through up the White Pass. You've heard a lot about that, the ordeal and all that.
I may have to look for it on
True
audio.
Story written by the first white woman born in the Yukon. Her father was a stampeder. You know, through her journals and his experience and everything like that, it's a cultural, interesting, but it's a great story.
And yours?
Jacob, you got something? Something you'd like to
Don't
share?
tell me you got nothing.
No. Book.
A book, movie.
Book, movie.
Recommendations can be anything somebody else might find interesting. A website, an application you're using.
All right. I'll give you a book since I'm not crazy about movies, but The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien.
The Things They Carried.
It's a
Uh-oh. And again.
It's about a guy who fought in the Vietnam War. It tells like his story, kind of, and I'll just say that.
Okay.
Okay,
So it's
so-
a
But it's really
Vietnam War story about one man's perspective.
I'm looking for new
Yeah.
writers
It's a little
and
more
audio books.
complicated than
Listen
that,
to a
but I
lot
don't
of
want to
audio
give too much away.
Okay.
But I read that in high school, and like,
I came with a good pen.
I mean, reading books in high school isn't fun, but that one I genuinely enjoyed, and it's still,
Stayed with you, obviously.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's great.
CH.
I'm working my way.
And are you
I guess
much
I'll
of
say it's a very
CAHN.
honest
Okay, great. Are
perspective
they long reads?
from a soldier, what I would think.
yeah.
In audio?
Yeah.
Do you have military experience
I'll
yourself?
check it out.
No, yeah, I don't either. I wouldn't
I can't do
know how to
audio 'cause
compare
I
it.
fall asleep.
I won't ride from here to the corner without listening to something.
Yeah,
The first one you want to start with is the. Oh, I'm sorry. I
What?
apologize.
But no, that's
As
good.
long as you don't get me shut down on YouTube.
One more recommendation in reference to authors. We were just talking about this is Jonathan Kahn,
That's an
And-
author?
author, and the first book that I recommend is called The Harbinger.
sounds familiar.
That sounds familiar.
I just
What was
said
his
that.
last name?
Kahn, C-A-H.
H.
He is a messianic rabbi.
Okay.
I just finished. I just found a brand new.
And what was the name of the book that you were recommended by him?
The first in the series is The Harbinger.
The Harbinger. What kind of story is it? Is it a horror story? Is it no?
The basis of the book is the prophetic warning from Isaiah 9:10.
Oh, okay. But it's fiction. I mean, well,
It's a fictional story laying down the mysteries.
I don't mean to offend anybody.
No. It's a fictional story, okay, laying down the mysteries surrounding the first steps of the Isaiah promise.
Okay.
You will be if you thing that he lays out, if you put it up on a whiteboard and said, okay, that's a coincidence.
Maybe a
Maybe
better
that's
question. This is a dramatized story. This is like there's
Is
a
that the one
plot,
you were talking
there,
about?
or is
Yeah.
this
I have
is
a-
this
the
like
one borrowed.
Sure.
a documentary
I have-
kind of
might
story?
have
It lays-
one
it
left
allows you to
out, and I
connect
have
the
one in
dots.
house here.
Yeah, but
I
like,
do
are
want
there
it back.
are there people
Okay.
going off
Yeah.
on adventures, or are they teaching me this?
They're teaching
Okay.
in reference to things that pertain to the Isaiah promise
Okay.
and things that have happened from September 11th forward. And then some other,
This sounds better as a YouTube video.
and then
It's- right?
if you look for it,
Yeah.
you will find it.
Yeah.
It's a 55. I think Jonathan has put together about a 45-minute YouTube video in an overview of the Harbinger.
I've definitely heard of it. I don't know why, where. I've heard.
Yeah, I tend to go for forensic type book, reacher book.
I
They're
love
not
Jack
intellectual, but I
I've read
love
every
them.
book.
Yeah,
I'm
and
That's
now
fine.
I'm working my way through Nelson DeMille.
That's
and
my.
I
I was going to say that's my number one author. is Nelson
I love
Mandela.
his style. He's
And this man is brilliant. He has such a sarcastic sense of
yes,
humor.
sarcastic.
And
his
since we're
stories-
living in the area, how many of us from back in high school days read it?
Nelson DeMille, he wasn't
No.
one of them.
And the story is 10 miles south of us.
Well, what are you talking about?
John Steinbeck's The Pearl.
Oh, yeah,
Steinbeck
that
was
Pearl.
was
great.
John Stein. I read it all back then.
But
I
how many
remember any
times?
of them.
Freshman year high school summer reading program before coming into school.
Well, I read it for pleasure. I didn't go to school.
I think my dad read that book to me when I was really young.
John Steinbeck.
And the
He used
story
to be-
is
I know I read
the
all
story is
his books.
based out of Wymus.
Oh, that's-
The Great
That is
Wine-
interesting. I didn't realize that.
Great Wine.
Oh yeah, that's an awesome
I'm
book.
glad you read that
Yeah.
because that is absolutely a great
Did
book.
you read The Red Light District? The
Is
the
Is that a
sequel to that?
follow-up or something? I might have.
I only got like the first chapter in it and got
Eh,
lost
It
in
wasn't for me.
Isn't that in Amsterdam?
it.
Yeah,
Wymus
there might
has
be
their
another
own.
one.
When I got here, it was very defined.
Well, the Guaymas Chronicles, I mean, I'll tell you what.
Oh, that's a great.
I've gone through a lot of stories
I'm sorry, I
in
have
my
a
life.
twisted
It's
sense of
truly
humor.
great. And another one that I love in Mexico is Garden, Mr. Gomez.
Oh, I haven't read
Oh,
that.
That's a must-read for any gringo that comes to Mexico.
There's,
Jacob, how long are you here for?
I'm here for another week.
If you're a fast reader, man, the Wymus Chronicles is a fun book to read because it goes back, geez, how far now? 50? I was going to say 50 years, but that was when I got here. So it's probably 70 years it goes back.
Yeah, great book.
And it talks about all these places that you can go right now that
Yeah.
still exist, and you can read how he interpreted what.
But the story was a great story.
It was an awesome
In-
story.
in
Yeah.
any,
The
location.
hotel he stayed in is still downtown. It's
So tonight there's going to be a speaker at the yacht club. talking about the history of winemaking.
Oh, that might be interesting. That goes on the recommendations page.
I think he starts at 6, but they're open at 3:30 for drinks and then dinner.
Yeah, so everybody can get drunk first.
But hubby's 6.
Who is it that's speaking?
I don't remember.
Oh, and it's at the yacht club?
At the yacht club.
Well, I've got one other. I came here with the Fallout recommendation of the TV show. I don't know if anybody's watching. It's on Amazon Prime. It is based on a video game, which would turn people off, just that sentence. But it is getting raving reviews from people that are not video game people. It's become the most unusual property because it is both loved by people that play the video game and people that don't know anything about the video game. So
And it is?
it's called Fallout.
Oh, okay.
Fallout.
I
You've
thought you
probably
were talking
seen it.
about The Last of Us, but I guess this is.
Oh, The Last of Us is another one. The
Yeah.
exact same kind of
Fallout is
reviews.
being heavily
I like the
promoted
actor,
on
but I didn't
YouTube
like
TV
The Last of Us.
on the banner.
Oh yeah,
Or actually, not on YouTube TV.
On
I'm sorry.
Prime.
On
yeah, it's on Prime.
Fire Stick.
Yeah, Fire
Yeah,
Stick.
on
yeah.
Fire Stick and on the banner.
Yeah, it is definitely a lot of fun. It is all based on in this kind of, how was it, Tobey Maguire movie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, I can't remember the premise behind
Yeah,
it.
my phone. I don't
Seems
know.
like, was it a? I'm thinking it was it a boys' school?
No, the side of house rule deals with some very sensitive subjects.
Mm-hmm.
And it basically starts out at an orphanage.
Okay, an
It
orphanage.
starts
Yeah.
out and works its way around. Did you see it?
I
Oh,
haven't seen it.
Yeah, I remember seeing it in the theaters,
Okay,
but it was a
there's a
long,
great-
long time ago.
Don't spill the beans.
no, I'm not going to.
Now, what did you drop?
He's just spilling his stuff.
I'm just testing your reflexes.
All right, guys.
You
Well,
were just looking at her thighs.
it sounds like we're calling this meeting to an end.
I have pants on.
I will be here next week, as I started this meeting with. We'll do another in person on the 30th, on the 7th, but on the 14th, I'm probably going to have to cancel because I think I'm going to be driving to Tucson or to Phoenix at that point.
Scott, I will see you online.
Yeah, are you heading back?
We're leaving.
All right.
We're leaving the first.
Oh.
And
Well, I'll be up in Alaska the third week in May. Yeah, we'll probably be flying like the 22nd.
I'm only the second week myself on the 14th.
Well, hey, keep me in mind if you need to come to Anchorage for anything.
Okay, well, keep me in mind if you want to go.
All right,
I
it's a
think that-
deal.
I think that's a decent offer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
All right.
The Isaiah promise.
Have a nice day, everybody.
Take care, sir.
You guys all have a good week and tech on. We'll see you next Tuesday at 10.